How to find your self-worth. Welcome back to Irrepressible, ordinary people with extraordinary resilience. And in this episode, I speak to the ever extraordinary Kelly. Now, Kelly talks a lot about how she struggled with her self-doubt and feelings of low self-worth, and how she tried to find meaning in relationships that perhaps didn't suit her or weren't right for her. What I really liked about this interview is that Kelly talks about how she looked back over her life and it wasn't necessarily overly traumatic, there wasn't massive traumatic events, but she does talk about how when her parents separated, it did have a huge impact on her. And I think that's really important. I think so many people out there struggle with these situations but feel like they're not justified. What I like is that Kelly's able to walk us through her kind of life story and take us to a place where she's been able to find amazing self-worth and now works as a coach and somebody who goes out in the world and helps other people find their self-worth in similar situations. There's a lot to learn from this episode, and I think it will resonate with most people. I think all of us can remember a time where we were in a relationship that wasn't serving us, but that we were trying to meet that kind of self-worth need through it. Kelly's really brave and really open and talks a lot about the whole of her life, what it looked like, and exactly how you can get to where she is. If this is the first time that you've ever been here, please do make sure that you have subscribed and turned on the notifications so you know each and every time that we post a video. Sit back and enjoy this, and I hope you get from it exactly what I did. So Kelly, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. A bit nervous, but I'm all right.
Nothing to be nervous about. I'm sort of like personally looking forward to kind of hearing like your journey and where we go with this. So why don't I let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name's Kelly. I'm 34. Well, actually, no, I'm 33. I'm nearly 34. I'm a mum to a little girl called Mila. I am a newbie coach, so I've just trained to be a coach, and I help like single self-doubting women or people in relationships if they're struggling with self-worth. That's sort of who I help. I was a makeup artist and a lash technician for like 12 years. And it's only been in the pandemic that I've sort of changed careers, because obviously I couldn't work. And I sort of had an epiphany that I love making people feel good. Like I love like transforming women. It just brings me alive. But what I wanted to do was do it on a deeper level. And I realized that like coaching, like I love helping people, like giving advice, listening. Like I've always been told by everyone that I'm a good listener. So yeah, I changed careers. So I've literally just started that now. So it's a bit of an exciting journey for me.
Yeah, and how's it going?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I feel like this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
Like makeup, I've always loved it. Like I'm such a girly girl and I love being all glam, but really like I like getting deep, and I love finding out about people and helping them. Like it just makes me, like you probably feel the same, like it just makes my heart happy. And yeah, it's just what I was meant to do.
That is the ingredients you need for a coach, right? That's it. That's what you need. And I guess some of that might be born out of about what you're about to tell us. I mean, I don't know. So why don't we dive in and you tell us a little bit about the adversity that you faced that's meant that you've had to be resilient?
Okay, well, I'll start from the beginning, because I think like the beginning of my story maybe doesn't sound like I've had such a bad time or I did face adversity, but it's sort of what happened to me and how I took that on, and then how I built myself from there. So when I was about 13, 14, I had like a really good childhood. My mum and dad were like together, and then they broke up when I was about 13, 14, and it was horrific, to be honest. Like at the time I didn't, I just thought, oh, it's just your mum and dad breaking up. Like it happens to so many children. But it was awful because my dad sort of had quite a lot of mental health issues, and he took it really, really badly, and he got a little bit suicidal, if I'm honest. He used to cry all the time. He became very emotionally dependent on me and my siblings. I'm one of four, I'm the oldest. And then like my mum got into another relationship like within a couple of months, and it's actually really quite raw for me to talk about it, because I feel like I've always tried to protect my mum, and like she's an amazing mum. But really, when I look back to that time, it was really, really traumatic for me, and it was just quite a hard time. And I think that's what started a lot of my unhealthy patterns that have led to where I am now. So from that, I just sort of learnt that my needs weren't allowed to be met. Like I didn't really mean anything. That we had to be emotionally supportive of our parents, which just went on and on for years. Like my dad then got into another relationship with another woman, got arrested and was in trouble with the police. Like lots and lots of things happened. And yeah, like I just then started to depend on my relationships with men for my source of like validation and approval. And it's only been recently, since I've gone through like becoming a single mum, that I've noticed that I did that. I didn't even know that I was doing it. So yeah, I got into these patterns. I'd always have a boyfriend. It's like I couldn't live without a boyfriend. I had to have someone there, even if it wasn't a boyfriend, if it was just someone I was seeing. Had to have someone to validate me and approve of me and to make me feel worthy. I could never ever get it from myself. When I was about 22, 23, I got into an abusive relationship. It wasn't physically abusive, but it was a lot of mental abuse and torture. It was horrible. I mean, I have actually been in contact with him recently, and he was suffering from severe OCD at the time. So he had a lot of intrusive thoughts. And obviously he would then have to carry out these compulsions and finding out about me and finding out about my past. But yeah, that's irrelevant. Like it was how I experienced it was very mentally abusive, and it just basically reinforced everything that I thought I believed about myself, that I wasn't worth anything, and I believed that there was something wrong with me. And I was still quite emotionally immature at that age, even though I was like 23. I was very immature for my age, I think. And I just completely went into myself. It lasted about a year. And then after I come out of that, I had fallen out with a lot of my friends. I'd fallen out with my sister, who is like my best friend. So that was a massive thing. But instead of healing it and addressing what I went through, I then just got into another relationship and was just numbing it. So my way of numbing was relationships and getting the validation from the man. That was all that mattered to me. And I just carried on into relationships. So the guy I got with after that abusive relationship, that ended. And then I got with my ex-partner, who I've had a little girl with now. So yeah, got with him, and we ended up getting pregnant. I got pregnant, not him, by accident, which I say now was like my miracle, because having my little girl Mila was the catalyst for change for me. Like when I had her, I got really bad postnatal depression, and I was just miserable. And it was like everything, all my patterns and my behavior that I'd been numbing down had just come out, and I was so angry, and I just was in a really horrible time of my life. And I wasn't happy in the relationship with her dad. Like we was very, very different emotionally. Like he come from a family where his mum was an alcoholic when he was a child. So he was a very emotionally cut off, and I craved that emotion, and it just become so toxic. And I remember thinking to myself, Mila was about 1 when we broke up. It was like a year ago now. And I remember thinking, what am I modeling to her? What am I showing her that love is? And it was then I thought, I don't want her to live this life. I don't want her to look at this relationship, see this toxic relationship, and think that this is normal, and think this is how two people love each other, and this is how someone respects themselves, like how I was, which was no self-respect. Like I was just livid at the world, and I thought, I don't want that for her. And it was just that point I thought, I've got to change. And me and him went our separate ways. Like we're still really on really good terms now, like we're really good friends. But it was just like I said, becoming a single mum has been like my ultimate transformation. Like I've started doing inner work. I've started looking at my behaviours and addressing them, and thinking, okay, why have I been doing this? And then that's what led me back to obviously my mum and dad's divorce, because it led me to think, well, where does this all start from? Because I used to believe that I had a normal childhood. I used to say to people, no, I had a really good childhood. But when I look back, really, I was just numbing down my experience because I was trying to be emotionally supportive to them and be not a good child, that doesn't make sense, but not make them feel bad, because I wanted to protect them, I guess. But in a way, I was invalidating my own experience of what happened. So yeah, that's what's led me to realize that where it all come from, really.
I think, particularly what you talk about in your childhood as well is, I think you've put in a really like clear way what I think a lot of people experience. Because I think a lot of people do the whole, no, my childhood was fine, right? There was no issue there. But what you've talked about, and you've talked about it with like a good level of compassion as well, because you've not been, it's not like you're saying your mum and dad were bad or anything like that, but the situation that you found yourself in,
Yeah.
with the ways that the ways that things went with your mum and dad, left you in that position where you were like you abandoned yourself and just thought that you needed to show up for everyone else, right? And I guess that's the pattern that you've seen start to play out in the relationships that you had.
Yeah, 100%. And because they're both amazing people, I couldn't understand that what had happened to me wasn't because they're bad people. It's just because of what happened. And obviously their behaviors had an effect on me. Like they had a different effect on my siblings, but obviously they experienced it different. And that's how I experienced it. And that's what happened to me as a result of that. And it took a long time. It's only really been recently that I've sort of accepted that and addressed it and come to terms with it, that yeah, that did actually affect me. I remember the first ever sort of self-development work I did. I remember this coach saying to me, oh, she was trying to like tap into my childhood, and I just was saying, no, my childhood was really good. And she said, well, tell me what happened. And I explained it, and she said, well, that's probably has been a cause of it. And I remember getting really defensive, thinking, no, they're really good, mum and dad are amazing, can't ever be because of them. But like you said, it's how you, because I was still a child, even though I was 13, 14. Yeah, I that's how I experienced that. And yeah, it does then have an effect on how you live your life and how you get into relationships.
Yeah, the best analogy I always use for that experience, yeah, is if I this is going to sound stupid, but if I was carrying a big heavy brick and I tripped over accidentally and dropped it on your foot,
Yeah.
right? You could know that I did it by accident. You could know I'm not a bad person and I didn't mean it, but you'd still have to go to hospital and get your foot
Yeah.
sorted out, right? Because that's just going to be what happened to you based on what happened, right? And I think that's, you know, even in the first, when you sort of shared your story, I think that's what you've done really well, is there's no blame there. It's just like, this is what I experienced. Did you struggle, by the way, with the fact that your siblings experienced it different? Has that been hard to come to terms with?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So my sister's going to come on and talk about her story and what happened to her. But yeah, massively. And also my mum's mum was very dismissive of us siblings and would always say to us, oh, you need to be there for your mum, and how's your mum? And it was always about them and never about us. And then it just become normal that no one ever asked us how we was. And it was only until I started doing the self-work, and I was like, that's actually not really normal for us never to be able to express ourselves.
Yeah.
I just adopted that as that's what everyone was like. But yeah, it's just, and it was really hard that my siblings took it differently, because I was the oldest. I think I could see a lot more and feel it more. I feel like I'm quite I don't know what the word is, empathic person, and I feel like
Empathic,
I feel really, really strongly. But it wasn't nice. But
and it's that like concoction that comes together as well. If you're quite empathic in the way that you say that you are, and then you have those experiences where you start feeling like you need to get your validation from other people, then you naturally find yourself in relationships where you're picking up on things that you can tap into in the relationship to get the validation that you need, right? And then you get yourself in that pattern that you talked about, which actually makes sense when you hear your story. It makes sense.
does. And when I got into the abusive relationship, I just wanted to help him. Like, I remember him saying that he had like mental health issues, but he didn't really go into it until after. I just remember thinking that I need to help him. And I completely abandoned myself, completely and utterly. I just didn't even know who I was. And it became all about him, helping him, trying to get him through what he was going through. And I just completely lost who I was. I lost so much weight. I was just a shell of myself. And I'm quite an outgoing, bubbly person. And I just was so timid, and I lost all my confidence. And yeah, I never healed from that, because I think it just, in my head, it cemented my self-worth for me, and thought, no, that's actually what you deserve. Like, you are just always here to help other people. Like, it doesn't matter about you.
Yeah, and I think that's like, God, it's put in such layman terms, but it'll be something that is so relatable to a lot of people, but they can't articulate it. Because I think even when you're in those patterns that you talked about, somewhere within you, you probably knew somewhere in you, but you couldn't like articulate it. And then when you hear other people articulate it, I think it really changes. What do you think? Like, obviously things have changed massively now, and you're clearly very aware of it.
Yeah.
What's enabled you to do that? What is it that you've done, in the time that's followed your daughter being born, that's enabled you to kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, well, obviously, like, having her, like, she was my miracle baby. And I just, that she was the catalyst for me to say, no, I don't want her to live like this. Like, I knew something wasn't right about how I was living. And then when I broke up with her dad, I think, like, he said something to me about, oh, you're just so angry. And I remember thinking, I'm not angry. Like, I was really defensive about it. But then I read a few self-help books, like self-development books. And I remember thinking, wow, like, and started doing the inner child work. And I remember thinking, Christ, like, there's so much layers to us. It's not just all what we present. And I used to believe every thought I had was true. And I started questioning that. And I just started following more different people on Instagram, and just doing webinars, like, had coaches, watching YouTube videos. I just started learning about myself and learning about how the brain works. And oh my God, it's just like opens up a whole new world. And then I think that's how, like, I've started to get into coaching, because I think I just want to teach this to everyone, because it's life-changing and it's possible for you to change. Because I never used to believe that. Like, I used to think, no, I'm so set in my ways. You just are how you are. That's how you're born. But obviously we both know that's not true. And yeah, I just started to sit with the uncomfortable feelings and just grow with it. And yeah, just let it all be there, instead of just trying to numb it out, because that's what I did, was numb with relationships and numb with trying to help someone else. Even
Yeah,
though, yeah.
but there's so much power in what you said there, particularly in the whole, I lived like it a long time, and I think a lot of people do, that this is just the way that I am. I thought everything about me, like, no matter what it was, I just thought it's the way I am. I just thought, like, I lived like I had no power over anything that happened to me, or anything that I thought, or anything that I did. I just thought, I'm just unlucky. Yeah, some people are lucky and get to be happy, and I'm just unlucky, and I'm miserable. But when you wake up to the power that lies in, and particularly, like you said, actually being in your emotions, when you don't have to numb your emotions anymore, and you realize that the wave comes over you and you get through it, then actually you just get stronger and stronger and stronger every experience you have, even the difficult ones.
100%. And like, like you said, people have different ways of numbing things. Like, we see people go to more difficult things like alcohol, but mine was through love and through validation. Like, that's how I got it, because I didn't know how to get it from myself. So I numbed it by just being with someone else and putting my all into the relationship and not focusing on myself. I remember my last boyfriend saying, oh, like a couple of years ago now, saying, oh, what do you want from life? Like, what are your goals? And I remember saying, not really sure. What are yours? And it's like, when it's crazy when I look back to that now, and I think, what? Like, how did I not know what I want? Because I was so disconnected from myself. And I also didn't know that I believed I wasn't worthy of anything. Like, I believed that I wasn't allowed to have dreams, and I wasn't allowed to want for things, because I should be happy how I am, because, I've always had a good life. Like, I've never experienced anything majorly traumatic. But really, it was like all of them feelings that was just created how I was, and like created how I just wanted to help everyone else and not myself. So yeah, I've just gone on this massive like it's sort of like I've made a promise to myself never to abandon myself ever again. Yeah. So that's
and look, and that will resonate with a lot of people, particularly the whole what's your goals in life, and then you go, I don't know, what are yours? Like what answer do you want me to give, and I'll give that. Do you know what I mean? That's like, I think so many people will resonate with that, especially.
Yeah, that's how I ended up getting pregnant, because I was just like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll just we'll see how life happens to me. That's sort of how I lived. It was like I was letting life happen to me, instead of, no, you can actually be proactive with this and create your own life. But I was so disconnected. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't even know how to ask myself what I wanted, like how to access my intuition, nothing. I didn't, it was almost like I was just so numb, and I live in my life on autopilot, like so unconsciously. But there is so much that you can change and so much you can be aware of. But that's why I want to get into coaching, because I want to show people that there is a different way to live.
Yeah, well, you're definitely going to do that. You're definitely going to do that. I've got no doubt. Let me just ask this one more question. What do you feel like you've learned about yourself? You've told us a lot, by the way, in everything that you've said. But like, if you could kind of capture it in a sentence or a paragraph or something like that, what would you think the biggest learnings are from your experiences?
I would say that life isn't always going to be good, because I think a lot of us go through it thinking, oh, it always needs to be perfect and we always need to feel happy. But it's just not true, is it? Like we're humans, like we're designed to experience a wide range of emotions, not just the ones that feel good, also the ones that feel uncomfortable. And it's the uncomfortable feelings that I think, I know for me, I used to numb out with relationships and the feeling of being in love, and people numb out for different reasons. But it's the being with the uncomfortable feelings and knowing that it's just a feeling, or it's just an uncomfortable thought, and that's actually how we're supposed to live. Like, we're not supposed to live like this perfect, striving for perfection, amazing, Instagram worthy life, because that's just not real life. We're humans, like we are here to feel and to love, and along with that comes the uncomfortableness and the tough times, because life is just always going to life, isn't it? And that's one big thing that I've learned, is not to strive for it to be amazing all the time, because that's when you then create your own suffering for yourself, because life is just sometimes going to be a bit shit.
Yeah. If there's one bit of advice, that's such a big bit, right? That
I don't know how else to say it, but it's true.
Yeah, sometimes life is just going to be shit. And actually, when you can accept that and actually just live through those moments without escaping into whatever it may be that you're using, then that's it. That sums up life for me. Listen, listen.
I've got a potty mouth. I'm sorry, but that just sums it up, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It does, yeah. And it's funny. You said you got a potty mouth. We got right to the end, and then you've thrown in that.
I curb it, but yeah,
to make sure you get it in at the end. Listen, this has been really, really good. I've actually learned a lot as well myself. You know, particularly about you have a way of kind of articulating things in a way that's like easily digestible, that makes sense.
For the simple person like me.
Well, no, yeah.
That's how I have to do it.
Making it simple.
Yeah, I have to simplify things in my brain. Like, right, how would a blonde person understand this? Oh, right, yeah, that's how I'm going to explain it.
Yeah, well, look, that's a good way to be, because I think there's, it means that you can reach so many people, and that's what this is about. So, look, I want to say thank you. I'm really grateful for you taking the time to do it. If people want to come and find you, where's the best place to go?
On my Instagram, so that_self-love_girl.
Okay.
There's gonna be loads of stuff coming up for me that I'm gonna help people with coaching. I'm just so excited to help people, because I just want to get my message across.
Yeah, I look forward to it, because you're going to do a lot, clearly. And I'll link all of that underneath the video as well. Is there anything you want to say before we close out?
No, I better not say anything else. I don't know what will come out. Yeah, no, it's been so good, Josh. Thank you. Like, one of your interviews, I think it was with a girl called Katie. She is a coach as well, and she said about that this is what made me like want to message you and reach out, because when I saw some of them, I was like, God, these people have experienced like so much trauma and so like many horrific things. And I was like thinking, God, I haven't experienced any of that, but I still felt like I had like a message to speak. And maybe it's speaking to those people who haven't been necessarily through what you would call a major traumatic event, but it's almost, I guess it's, you could say it's relevant to your life, isn't it? And how you experience things.
Yeah.
So what I've been through is traumatic to me, but it might not be to someone else, but it's still like, it still builds your life and builds your belief about it and beliefs about yourself.
Yeah, 100%, because it's all relative. That's the thing. And
Yeah.
actually, it's such an important message to get out there that, you know, to get yourself on a difficult path, based on what you've experienced, can sometimes take the most subtle of things. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't need to be a big traumatic, but what is the same is once you're on that path, you can all get as far down it as the next person. Do you know what I mean? Even if you start on there for a different reason. So I think it's a really important message, and it is one that's needed. And it's I'm glad that you've kind of highlighted it as well. So it's good that I'll get this across, because, you know, I'd hate to think that there's people thinking they're unjustified just because we're talking about all the real bad trauma. Do you know what I mean? Because that's not the case.
No, I remember talking to my little girl's dad, and I remember him saying to me, like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you so miserable? Why are you so angry? You've had a really good upbringing. I'd love to have had your family, because he had a very traumatic childhood. Like, his mum was an alcoholic, and I just remember thinking, yeah, why am I? I haven't even been through anything. Like, but like you said, it's all relative to you. And yeah, even though he went through something horrific, he's still, how he's dealt with it and how he then sees himself is different to how I do. And it is all relative to you. I think that's such an important thing, because you can just completely dismiss your experience and dismiss yourself because you think it's, oh, no, someone else has got it much worse than me. But there's always going to be people that unfortunately have things worse than you. Yeah,
100%. Look, thank you very much. I'm really, like I say, I'm really grateful for this, and I look forward to sharing it with everyone. So thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Josh.